Join me today as I share my reaction to Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence, a book I think most fantasy readers would really enjoy. Grey Sister was published in 2018, part of the Book of the Ancestor set. It's the second book of a trilogy. Now, my son Zach, he's on the record thinking, the second book of trilogies often is the weakest one, where you have this great introductory story and then it kind of takes a dip and then it comes back strong for the finish. Yeah, that's not the case here, okay? This book, man, it took everything I loved about book one, Red Sister, and then just gave me more on top of it to love. It Everything from character development to plot movements to the action sequences, they all amped up in really powerful ways in Grey Sister. It was an incredibly engaging and entertaining read. So what's it about? On a basic level, we're still continuing the story of young Nona Grey, an initiate, a novice of the Church of the Ancestor, training to become a nun. But in this series, nuns are not what you might think of when thinking of nuns. I mean, some of them are, maybe. I understand at this point there are 3 levels, classifications, orders of nuns. There's Red Sisters, and these are literally soldiers of the church, ready to go to battle and do some damage. They are skilled with weapons of all sorts, particularly bladed weapons, and they're also quite capable in unarmed combat. Yeah. Then there's Grey Sisters. Now, these are the negotiators, the manipulators of circumstances, and as needed, the assassins. They train to sort things out, whether through diplomacy or elimination of problems. To support their work, they get some of the more nuanced secrets of the church into their training: poisons, shadow magic, and walking the path, much of which is on full display in the second book of the series. And then there are the Holy Sisters, which I don't know a lot about yet. Seemingly, they're the ones who actually are religious, focused on the faith of the ancestor in the ancestor. We haven't had a lot about that yet, but as the name of the third book is Holy Sister, I can assume more is coming in that regard, and it's probably a lot more complicated than what I just said. So Nona is training in these skills, and she has some incredible natural abilities. She's no run-of-the-mill novice. Her background, dark, unfortunate. We learned a lot about that in the first book. But ahead of her, the sky may be the limit, as long as Nona doesn't self-destruct. She is prone to some rather impulsive decisions that always have a rationale, but maybe weren't the best thought through. And then there's the fact that Nona has unfortunately made some very powerful enemies along the way. Enemies who aren't just after Nona, but have powerful agendas that go way beyond Nona, yet seemingly still always include Nona's demise in some way. Poor girl. This novel is full of politics, power plays, legal maneuverings, manipulation, both inside and from outside the church, and even fight to the death scenes. Yeah. And the ending? Holy crap. This ending is hang on to your seat, romping action that's worthy of big screen cinema. And all do not come through unscathed in this book. So I said that was the basic level. We're seeing not just Nona's schooling and progression, but we're also seeing world-shaking power plays with the Church of the Ancestor trying to navigate treacherous waters and come through safely on the other side. But there's another level to the story, a completely other level Mark Lawrence continues to give us just a bit of in this book. And that's the fact that the core of the story, everything I've talked about so far, is just flashback. Nona and other full nuns are involved in some dark and dangerous actions that's happening as the actual current timeline for the story. And these things that are going on that they're dealing with that we just get these snippets of are direct results from the past, from the background that most of the story has been about. I expect book 3 will have a chunk of that book that moves fully into this later timeline. We'll have finished with the things we need to know from Nona's past, and now we can see, okay, what's this later action about? What's going on? What's the result? I'm very interested to see how Mark Lawrence pulls that off. One other extra tidbit that Lawrence included in book 2 deserves a mention here, and that's the addition of a demon as a significant secondary character. This is still a bit mysterious, but the first book, we came to know in the first book that there are powers around that not everyone understands, that I still don't entirely understand, but that the academy, the center of schooling and academic knowledge here in the Empire, has learned how to tap into these powers. And they can, in some cases, harness these demonic essences, these beings, for purposes that achieve goals, important things. And as far as I can tell, very little of those important things tend to come out all that good. We most saw it before with a character who was a definite bad guy who was only alive because some of these demonic things possessed him, were part of him, were basically keeping him alive. Nona, through actions at the end of book 1, picked up a demon. And we just pick up the storyline here, quite some time after the end of the first book. I think months had passed, and she's got this demon ride along. No one else knows, just Nona. She didn't mean to pick up a demon. She didn't want to have a demon with her, but nevertheless, she's got this companion. And I found it initially a little annoying, but that didn't last long. I'm like, no. I see what's going on here. Oh, this is rather entertaining. And then I appreciated what the demon adds to Nona's development as a character. So Mark Lawrence, well done there. I'm still very curious about this demon thing and what's really going on there. And maybe it will clarify in Holy Sister. So what does happen to Nona and the demon? What is the big action sequence at the end about that I told you about? And who gets scathed at the end? Who dies? Yeah, a core character dies. Well, this is a spoiler-light episode, guys. I'm not telling you those things. You'll have to read the book if you haven't already. And I mean, if you've already read it, you know these answers. You know how good they are. But the rest of you, get out there and read Grey Sister. I definitely enjoyed this book. I look forward to moving on to Holy Sister soon. The pacing of the story is brilliant. The book never seemed to drag. There are multiple challenges that must be overcome throughout the story, each one building up to a fantastic resolution. And Mark Lawrence does a great job of refusing to be transparent. Plot resolutions are logical. When they hit, they're very satisfying. They make sense, but they weren't obvious. He's not transparent. He's not being overly here it all is for you. I mean, he's leaving some mystery to it. And so there's some surprises along the way that are quite entertaining. Okay, now, how about you? Have you added the Book of the Ancestor because of my episode before on Red Sister? Or maybe now with Grey Sister, you're inspired to do so? I'd love to hear your experience reading these books. And if you already have read, what do you think of my thoughts here? You know what's going on in Grey Sister, and maybe already know what happens in Holy Sister. Give me your thoughts about my review here today. Put them in the comment box, people. I love hearing what you have to say. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell. It's over there somewhere, so you'll hear about it when we drop more episodes. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.